1119. Last summer, a group of women, two of whom you'll hear from today, reached out to me about the sexual deepfake law that was enacted in 2023. That law prohibited the dissemination of sexual deepfake images or videos. That law was modeled after the non-consensual dissemination of private sexual images law, or the revenge porn law. Because unlike private sexual images, where the nude person often takes the photo or the video of themselves and then sends it to another person, prohibits the further sending of that image or video to other people, the harm in this case are that the sexual deepfakes are created altogether. Again, the harm is not in the dissemination, it's in the creation. With the advancement of AI, many things are possible today that would have been unimaginable even 5 years ago. Some good and some bad. For example, if you go into Facebook today and you say, make a picture of me with purple hair, this is what it will make. It doesn't totally look like me, but it's close enough. But if you ask Facebook to make a picture of me naked, it can't do that. Or it says it can't do that. It can do that, but Facebook or Meta has this function turned off on their programs. It's not available to users. And this is the reality for many generative AI programs that we're familiar with. But there's some apps, platforms, and websites that will nudify a picture or a video of someone. That is, it will take a video or a picture of a person who's clothed and make them naked. Or it will take an already existing pornographic video, take a person's face from their wedding photo or from a family picture, and then create a new video where it appears that that clothed person is actually engaged in the acts in the pornographic video. And because AI is both very advanced at this point, as well as trained on pictures and videos of real naked people, these nudified photos and videos look very, very real. I think a lot of people think AI looks like this. It's a nice picture. It's somewhere between a really, really good drawing and a real person. But this is actually what AI looks like now. This picture is AI. Now, there are tiny details in this picture that can help you see that it is not real. And I have that pointed out for you here. This girl has 3 legs, true to AI. They're still not very good at hands and fingers. But you have to look really, really closely to find those details to see that it's AI. It is not easily visible if you're just doing a casual scroll or casual viewing. So here's what that means for us. Any person can take a picture of any one of us from online, in the grocery store, walking down the street, and put it into an app and create a very real photo of us naked. It means that any person can take a picture of our children or our grandchildren from online, from the grocery store, playing in the park, and put it into an app and create a very real pornographic video of them. These apps are available on every computer, every cell phone, downloadable by any age, and they're available in the Apple Store and the Google Store. And it's creating real problems. It's creating problems for adults, it's creating problems for kids, it's creating problems for teachers, siblings. This is technology that should not be available to people to use. So my bill simply requires that apps, platforms, and websites have the nudification functions turned off. You can still make pictures of yourself with purple hair, you just can't make yourself naked. And with that, I will turn it over to my first person who is experienced with this, Molly.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. Before I start, I want to say thank you to Senator Quade for her continued leadership support and for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Molly Kelly. I live in Otsego. I'm a proud Minnesotan, mother, and professional and student. In June of this past year, I discovered that a friend of 20 years had used my face and widely available deepfake technology to create hyper-realistic pornographic videos and images of me. My initial shock turned to horror when I learned that the same person targeted about 80 to 85 other women, most of whom live in Minnesota, some of whom I know personally, and all of them had connections in some way to the offender. The image she used was from family pictures on basic social media platforms. I was 6 months pregnant at the time, and the crippling stress and anxiety of this event negatively impacted my health, and I worried constantly of the health of my baby. This also negatively affected my work and professional life. I was humiliated and very worried that my employer, my colleagues, clients, and neighbors may have seen these images. Because they were created on the internet, the number of people who had already seen them was unknown. All moments that once felt harmless were now charged with a lot of suspicion and unease. I no longer walked into meetings the same way. I no longer sat on the bus on the way to work wondering if someone had seen me in these images. Understanding the technology is critical to understanding the harm. The harm begins at the moment these images are created. Unlike the revenge porn, which involves harmful distribution of images that were initially made consensually, deepfake pornography does not require an image to be widely shared for it to cause harm. The act of creation itself is the harm because it happens without consent and knowledge. This is why the existing laws are not enough. The offender in my case did not face any legal consequences. The burden to prove intent and dissemination is placed entirely on the victim, which is two things I have no way of verifying, because when someone fabricates an explicit images of you, using a photo of your family's holiday pictures, your LinkedIn profile, your child's school event, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, it's impossible to track what happens next. Deepfake pornography is not a niche issue. It's not something that happens in faraway, dark, creepy corners of the internet. It's mainstream, it's accessible, and the ability to do so is in your pocket and on your phone. It's increasingly used to target young people. It didn't escape me that pictures of my older 3-year-old son are also on social media and could be used in the same way, and I would have no way of knowing this, finding the offender, or figuring out where the pictures are, or have the ability to have them taken down if they were. Anyone who uses the internet is susceptible to being a target. A middle schooler can take a photo of a classmate or a photo from Instagram, run it through an app, and create hyper-realistic nude images or pornographic video literally with one hand. It's easy and it takes seconds. And because these images are created using a third-party platform and the internet, once these images exist, they can't be undone, and there are no apparent guardrails. The psychological harm, the humiliation, loss of trust, the fear of every glance and comment from a peer will follow a child for years. So why are these companies allowed to profit from this? Why do they have no liability? If you're listening to me talk, you or someone you love is on social media. You have family photos online. You have friends, siblings, children, and grandchildren who share their lives on the internet. That means this can happen to you. The only way to stop it is to disallow the technology itself. We cannot keep placing the burden on victims to fight what is an impossible battle. And the law is apparently unwilling to categorize this type of non-consensual, pornographic, deepfake creation as a crime. We do not have to accept powerlessness as a status quo, and it's time for basic protections for privacy, dignity, and safety. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Megan Hurley. I'm also here to share my experience as the victim of deepfake and face swap technology. I learned from Molly this past summer in June of 2024 that a man I've known for 20 years and once considered a dear friend had used a picture I posted to my private Facebook page and an accessible website to make hyper-realistic nude images and pornographic videos of me and about 80 other women, most of whom reside here in Minnesota. This has caused irreversible harm to me and these other women. I cannot overstate the damage this technology has done. My workplace has made great efforts at cost to them to make me feel safe at work. I'll note I'm a massage therapist, a profession that's unfortunately already sexualized. I feel, especially in speaking out like this, that I'm less safe. Molly and I used a reversed image search to ID a lot of the women we didn't initially recognize, and often a professional headshot from a workplace website or a conference website would return. And I worry someone who has consumed these images of me could do the same thing, make an appointment with me, and re-victimize me. I have been humiliated. I have never taken nude pictures or exchanged nudes with anybody. But because of this easily accessible website, there are convincing graphic images and pornographic videos on the internet of me forever. It is far too easy for one person to use their phone or computer and create convincing, synthetic, intimate imagery of you, your family and friends, your children, your grandchildren. I do not understand why this technology exists, and I find it abhorrent there are companies out there making money in this manner. I am also, with Molly, asking for stronger legislation that hold these companies responsible so this doesn't happen to anybody else in the future. Thanks for your time.
It seems like the proposal would penalize these companies if they're allowing this technology. But for the two of you and the other women, is there some sort of retroactive step you can take if something for the individual who did this to you?
Well, the first thing I'll say is that because the deepfake dissemination prohibition already exists, the company already violated that law. They already committed a crime by allowing those images to be created because they sent them back to the person who victimized the testifiers behind me. I can let either of you speak to that if you'd like to.
Are you asking if we found evidence of dissemination, if there's something retroactive that could be done?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, current law, if there's anything.
Current
you
law,
would face.
current law requires the intentional dissemination of these deepfake images. Many of us filed police reports in our respective counties. The police response was inconsistent. Most of the time, they didn't know there was a law. So it took a little bit of patience to point that out. Once we did, it was made clear that the responsibility to identify the intent and dissemination elements of the statute fall squarely on us. So that means that we had to, I was told that I should just ask him to stop making them. So it would require us to confront the person doing this, which is scary and dangerous. I mean, you wouldn't have to use your imagination. I mean, it's not ideal. And, or the other option, well, it's not an option, it would be a requirement placed on us to basically scour the creepiest parts of the internet looking for my own pornography that I didn't make. I've never made pornography. I've never had him. I've kept track of what my face and body have done my whole life. And so to know that there's this shadow version of me that's hyper realistic, and who knows where it is. And I think it's a misnomer to think that, you know, even with the revenge porn, it doesn't have to be malicious in order to, the dissemination does not have to be malicious in order to qualify under either statute. It just has to happen. So the idea that I should somehow know that they were disseminated and where and how would require some sort of extortion or malintent or something. And because that didn't exist, I can't do anything. Unless, I mean, I could spend every waking moment looking at very creepy corners of the internet, but that's horrible. And I think it's not realistic or humane to ask a victim to do that.
Are there any consequences for this person?
No.
No.
You kind of touched on some of this here, but why is it that the existing deepfake and revenge porn laws aren't adequate for this?
So with the revenge porn law, you know, the crime there is dissemination, right? You take a nude picture or video of yourself, you send it to somebody else with your consent, and then if they send it to other people, that's where the crime happens. And part of the reason that the deepfake sexual image law is the way that it is, it's in dissemination, is because we modeled it after the quote-unquote revenge porn law. But here, the harm is in the creation of the sexual deepfakes. And what we really want to do is deter companies from allowing people to do this to other people. It's not the dissemination, it's the fact that it exists at all. And we could, of course, criminalize people who download the app and then pay the money to do it. But if it's so easy to access, why would people stop doing it? Especially kids. Why would they think that an app that they can download on their phone and then nudify someone is illegal, right? We want companies to turn this function off so it is not accessible in the state of Minnesota, so Minnesotans can't do this to each other.
Is it realistic to try to get companies to turn an app off just for Minnesota? Or, I mean, how can this be enforceable when cyberspace is everywhere? And
That's
these
a-
actors are all over?
That's a great question, and both Molly and Megan were part of the press conference with Senators Klobuchar and Cruz for a bill that addressed this more broadly. This does require federal action. That bill unfortunately was tanked with some politics, and so it didn't pass, and so we're taking state action. I will say that we are sending this to other states. Red, blue, and purple are very interested in this law, and I think absent federal action, we can certainly try to do something as a state. But one of the pieces of the bill allows the Attorney General to sue the companies, and it's no less than $500,000 for each allowed access and download for these apps. And so I could see a moment in the future where a superintendent or a principal says, look, we have a bunch of kids in the school who are doing this. It allows the Attorney General to go in and sue the company on behalf of Minnesota, because that is who's being harmed. It's all people in Minnesota. And so I do think that the strong enforcement action and the stiff penalties will hopefully act as a deterrent.
You kind of touched on this, but so are there other states that are actively considering this at the moment, or have recently enacted anything similar?
There are several states who have the sexual deepfake prohibition law. We are sending this to other states because obviously there's a big loophole here. What we have found is that not a lot of legislators are aware that this technology is so accessible and so available to the residents of their state. So we are working in the education process right now.
What are these companies? Which are they? And what do they say about this, this legislation?
So I'm not going to name them because I don't want people to start downloading apps, but they are available, and if you Google it, you can find it. You know, the big ones that you think of in the United States, the Metas, the ChatGPTs, they don't do this. So these are foreign companies. There's one, I believe the server that you all were victimized by is in Hong Kong. But so they are international companies and or they're subsidiaries of national companies. But they're available very easily. And the other part of it too is that you have to pay money to do it. It's not free. And so they're not only getting users to use it, but they're making a ton of money off of doing this too.
Can I comment?
Yes, please do.
I've got something to add as
So,
well. Please do.
the other thing to note is that a lot of these websites do not purport or market themselves to be pornographic. This isn't, in fact, if you read their terms and conditions and the exculpatory clauses that they include in their websites, they say, don't use non-consensual images, don't use copyrighted stuff. They are marketed to make images kind of like what Senator Maye Quade had up. Like, what would I look like with purple hair? Like, let's show me as a hobbit, and it has backgrounds and you can make videos of you as a hobbit or an elf or something. The reality is using this technology and these websites that provide it, pornography is why they're used. It's an easily Googleable statistic that you can find. Most of this technology is used for pornographic image creation and video. And not always, but it's targeting children and minors. And it's because you need this complex algorithm technology, you have to have a third party involved somehow. This isn't typically something you can just do on a closed universe of your computer. So all of this data goes away to a foreign server where it's made, and then now where? Anywhere is the answer. And so it gets sent back to the user, and then it's disseminated from there if you can prove it. So these companies, it's really they're saying, don't use it for bad purposes, but they know full well that that's where their money is coming from. And something like this is important because otherwise you're playing whack-a-mole. I think the people that understand the most of how this technology is harmful, probably any school principal in Minnesota. If you ask them about this, they will know more than most law enforcement. Yes. And what's to stop, I have a 3-year-old son, what's to stop him as a middle schooler from doing something stupid that he thinks is funny because it takes zero thought, it takes 15 seconds and no thought. And it's not some creepy porn app on his phone. It's a regular innocent looking one where he made himself into a Lego earlier, you know? So it doesn't need to exist. You can make yourself into a Hobbit and a Lego without also being able to do this. So
92%, that's the statistic. 92% of deepfakes are sexual.
I will say this weekend, I was looking at forums regarding AI and Reddit a little bit, and compared to when I first was informed about this in June and just put deepfake into Reddit, and all the asks were, who has the skills to make a nude picture of a girl who was my neighbor when I was a kid? This weekend, I noticed, particularly with the site that was used in our case, there were people asking for other site options because they noticed this particular site was starting to limit what they wanted to use it for. There was coded language, and I went deeper in the forums, then the ask of, I want 4K quality video and picture imagery with naked bodies, and they're not finding it as great in this particular site that was used in our case, and wanting the ability to put multiple faces. There were instances that had 2 women in a sexual manner. You know, I could guess, because of contacting these women, of 2 women who have never met before in their life, but engaging in sexual acts because he wanted to see that.
Senator, what's the path forward on this? Now, you had a hearing last week in Judiciary. It's tabled because you're going to tweak some of the language, and then it's going to go to Commerce. Anything else after that? And do you have a sponsor in the House yet?
2 really great questions. Yes, after Judiciary, where we're just trying to figure out where does the money go after the Attorney General sues? Is it going to go to victim survivors? Is it going to the general fund? You know, what is it going to? Then it will go to Commerce. If we decide to do something really specific with the funds the Attorney General recoups, it could go to state and local government. And then it'll hopefully go to the floor for a standalone vote. I'd really like to see this pass the Senate and the House on its own, signed into law. I think our victim survivors deserve that. I think Minnesotans deserve that. And this is wide bipartisan support in the Senate, so I'd like us to have that moment. I believe we sent this over to Representative Zach Stevenson, who is my chief author in the House for the sexual deepfake law. He's been a great partner in this type of work, so I think we have to check on its introduction, and I'll look at my LA, but that's who we sent it over to.
I wonder if you can talk about just operating in this space that is constantly changing and having to legislate for these situations that maybe you didn't expect a year ago.
Yeah.
How do you plan for the unforeseen?
I mean, it's infuriating that we don't have regulations for tech companies. The fact that they were allowed to develop this kind of AI technology and unleash it on the world without any sort of way to detect is something AI, I think is criminal in nature and is a complete abdication of ethical duty. It's really frustrating. I'm a state lawmaker. I'm not a member of Congress. I'm not a senator. I can't regulate everything for the country. And so to know that, you know, this has bipartisan support from pretty much every part of the political spectrum. This should be something that Congress should get done right now. They already had the opportunity to with Amy Klobuchar and Ted Cruz on the same bill, right? Like, we're looking at a pretty bipartisan support. The longer that they wait to take action, the more harm is unleashed into our states, our cities, into our communities without any sort of repercussions. And I know that, you know, there's a lot of affinity in the White House for tech billionaires right now, but like this is really, really important to get attention around because it is harming so many people, and we're entering into a world where we won't be able to believe what we see and hear, and that's not a world I want to live in.
Let me just
Yeah.
ask this then. Thought process behind the amount of the fine.
I wanted it to be high, and we know that companies only do this and they make money when they do it. It's, you know, $500,000 at least. I wanted it to be more, but I was told by nonpartisan I might have trouble with that. It was a little bit of a shock factor to the committee even when they heard the $500,000. So we're going to start there, but if we find that maybe that's not enough of a deterrent, we can go higher.
If I could get Molly's name.
You also have full name spelled out on those sheets.
Okay.
Molly
you just-
Kelly,
Yeah,
K-E-L-L-E-Y.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
I stole your face.
Oh.